Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks. I seriously feel like something happened in my brain this week. TGI Sports Talks, Sunday stream of consciousness. Great to have you guys with us here today, as always. And it's a snowy day here. Actually, snow's over. We had a snowy day yesterday. We were supposed to get, I think when I first heard this, 1 to 4 inches of snow. And we got, 13. We got more snow in the last 24 hours than we'd gotten, well, I should say 48 hours, than we'd gotten all winter combined. So anyway, that's where we stand there. March 24th, and we get a foot of snow. Although March, by the way, guys, here in the Northeast, I don't know about where you are, can be kind of nasty. Remember, lots of big storms in March, so I don't know why we're so surprised, but we always are, especially once we get days up close to 70, and then we get this. It won't last long, so don't let it ruin your day. Quick shout out to everybody watching us this morning on Facebook, watching us on TGI Sports Talk on our Facebook feed, on our YouTube feed, and our Twitter feed. Those of you watching on Northeast Streaming Sports, whether it be the Roku channel, welcome. And if you haven't downloaded that, please download it. Lots of great content there. Also on their Facebook and YouTube streams. And Let's Talk Sports on their YouTube stream. Lots of great content there. Tanner D doing a great job. Quick shout out. First, thumbs up, DDH. And a quick shout out to Ralph Williams at RW Media. Specifically, Ralph does some great stuff. He'll probably pop in here at some point this morning, and we'll say it again. Especially the Sports Corner, which he does 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Here, he's from Pittsburgh, and he does it on WBVP, 12:30 a.m. and 99.3 FM. And the shows do end up on Facebook as well. And I'll be there this Friday or this third. It's gonna be a long 2 hours. I'll be there this Tuesday at 5. I got to call his producer tomorrow. I need a producer. Yell in my ear when I'm not talking about anything and babbling. And a quick shout out to Greg Rawlings over there at Baseball America's Pastime. He does a great job with that site. Somebody who I'm a moderator on some of his sites as well. Lets me share to his football and his basketball and his baseball groups, and we appreciate that. And we'll give John Gonzalez from the Sports Authorities another shout out this morning as well. So thanks for joining me this morning. We're going to get into some stuff. We'll get into some hellos in a quick second, but just to prime you guys a little bit, we got the entire NCAA tournament to talk about. This tournament needs Cinderellas. So if the NCAA wants to talk about getting rid of automatic bids for lesser conferences, just take a look at Yale and Oakland, James Madison, who else? Can't read my own writing. Oregon wouldn't have lost they're a bit of a Cinderella here, but Duquesne. So before you start taking away these bids, guys, watch this and see the amount of interest that's applied. We've got some real losers. We'll look at the conference by conference. Big East undefeated. SEC, I think has 2 wins, maybe 3. We'll look at with the conference records so far. Gonzaga, maybe not a big surprise. To me, the big surprise is the way they're winning by a lot. And I have them in my Final Four. I did. We'll talk about we only have 7 or 8 in our bracket pool, but I've lost my champion, but I've got my whole Final Four alive other than that, including Gonzaga and Marquette. So we'll see how that works. Dusty May goes to Michigan. We'll talk about that. Timeout. He did go to Michigan, didn't he? Yes, thank you. Dusty May, great job at Florida Atlantic. He goes to the big time now at Michigan. Major League Baseball, we got no shortage of things to talk about. The opening day is around the corner. Sorry, I'm not counting Korea as opening day. We should be going back to the Cincinnati days where they got a standalone opening day, but Major League Baseball just doesn't know how to recognize its history, as I talked about. And I'm going to try not to be too negative. Chris F. Crane. We talked about the women's too. South Carolina. I skipped over the women's tournament. We'll talk about South Carolina rolling, Iowa rolling, Caitlin Clark starting off slow but having a good day, and all under the watchful eyes of Albany. and again, interesting enough, while the men's Cinderellas are so important to the tournament, maybe one of the reasons the women's tournament doesn't take off is because 32 games, one lower seed, higher seed, I guess, higher or lower, I guess it's like air conditioning, turn it up or turn it down. I don't know what we're doing. One, let's say underdog by the seeding, one out of 32 games. On the men's side, it was probably half the pool. That's probably an exaggeration, but still, you know what I'm talking about. Major League Baseball, Peter Angelos dies, the owner of the, or maybe about to be former owner of the Orioles. We've got the whole Ohtani situation. Is there more? Where there's smoke, is there fire? Is Ohtani involved in this more than we think? Why does the story keep changing? First, he knew about it and paid the debts off. Then they all turned around and said, no, he didn't know anything about this, and caught him totally by surprise. And while all this is going on, you see the two of them, him and his interpreter, yucking it up in Korea in the dugout. I don't understand it. Baseball injuries we can talk about. We will have, by the way, the Major League Baseball preview show and myself and Drew Ehrlich Tuesday at 7 p.m. Please tune in there. I put a reminder up already. In the NFL, we got Snead traded to the Titans after he was franchised last week. Some changes the NFLs are looking to make to some rules. You're not going to be able to tackle a guy pretty soon, by the way. The Texans about to be sold. Of course, we can talk some draft news. We've got the lingering news on Wilson and Pickett and Fields. And then, of course, the guy's about to get traded and what the Patriots ought to do. We had some talk this morning about the dynasty. If you haven't watched the miniseries, it was pretty much a hit piece on Bill Belichick. Hopefully that spurs some conversation, because what they did in this miniseries, which I thought was pretty good, except they make Bill Belichick out to be the villain in everything. Bob Kraft, and I love Bob Kraft, and I love Tom Brady, but guys, relax. And the next little bit we can talk about. Tom Thibodeau's best coaching job? His team's 2 games out of second place. Let's get to some hellos. CA, first one. Good morning. Blessed Sunday to you. The 24th. Next Sunday is Easter Sunday. We will be on. Oh, Dave Guyette up there in Amsterdam. I know you guys got a lot of snow. Dave, what'd you get where you are? I know some people anywhere from 12 to 2 feet between Amsterdam, Broadalbin, Gloversville, Fonda. We got around a foot here, I guess. There's Chris F. Grave. He's fresh from Sonia's show. Mac was diligent and cool this morning. He didn't try to rile me up. Sometimes I come off that show and I'm riled up. But I'm passionate about what I talk about. Sometimes it gets a little, and I try not to be a screamer. I know Chris has talked about other people that have turned him off. Again, not to tell stories out of school, Chris, but I hope you don't mind me just mentioning it. There are times that I get a little worked up, but it's because I'm passionate about what I'm talking about. It's not just to get clicks or get you guys. Maybe sometimes I want to get you guys participating, and just like you guys do. You guys do a great job of pushing my buttons, and I like that. I need that release. To me, this is a stress reliever. Sometimes you might think I'm getting worked up and getting stressed out. This is my stress reliever, guys. Real life. Real life, well, not real life in general, but real life's difficult. We all know that. And real life work is very stressful. And this is my release. And that's why I like to have some passionate conversations. And again, sometimes my passion might seem negative, but if I see something that's not positive, and I'm not going to avoid it and try to spin it, especially as a Yankee fan or a Patriot fan, I think I am very, very objective with my team. So any fan is going to have some blind spots here and there, and I'm sure I have them. We'll talk about the Yankees a little bit. We're in trouble, plain and simple. Good morning, Rick Sherlock. He's up there in Amsterdam. Love to hear some of the snow totals. I don't know if you got this storm. Chris up there in Toronto. Chris told me a secret about his baseball fandom. I don't want to spill the beans, but I was certainly off base, which he straightened me out on the other day. Dave Guyette, Thursday's first game, regular season. Nestor starting. Another quick point too about the Yankees, and God, it's a little bit about it's the world today in a way. Marcus Stroman, refuses the number one starting job. Boone claims this is what Boone does. Once there's a firestorm because Marcus Stroman said, no, thank you, I want to stay on my schedule. Then Boone says, well, we only offered it to him out of deference to his service time. He's a veteran pitcher. We didn't really want him off his schedule to begin with. Well, then don't do that. This is Boone to a T, and Stroman not saying he didn't understand at first, the fans being upset. He didn't know they were upset or why they'd be upset. Why do you think, dude? He needed you. You didn't step up. That's just my, 2 cents there. Afternoon, Alex Simpson over there in merry old England. Watching some great stuff from Netflix. I'm watching The Gentleman right now, Alec. And I watch a lot of stuff that's made by English producers, production companies and whatnot on Netflix and Prime. There's some great content that comes out of there entertainment wise. I haven't mentioned that before, but I wanted to do it today. Watching The Gentleman right now. And if you like dark comedy, this is a good show for you. And good news, I heard Cillian Murphy. I'm not sure his English now that I think about it, or Irish. I'm not sure. So hopefully I can get this mixed up. I think it's still relevant though. Alec has said he's open to making a Peaky Blinders movie. Still some things not wrapped up from that series, and I don't know how many of you are aware of it. If you have not watched Peaky Blinders, watch it. I will tell you, put the closed captioning on because you're not going to understand a word they say. Good morning, Kenny Gifford up there in the mountain. I imagine you got about 30 inches of snow when it was all said and done. Purdue looked good and understood they need to feed the big man. Purdue did look better the first couple rounds of this tournament. Rick, let me pull up the bracket here real quick. We'll talk about our brackets today too. Men's tournament bracket. Where's Purdue? Come on, Purdue. Where are you? I know you're here somewhere. I want to see their next matchup. We're going to talk about the next matchups too. Are they down the bottom over here? That's Carolina. There's Purdue. Grambling, they handled with 28 points. Oh, they got to play today. I'm sorry. They play Utah State today. Don't sleep on Utah State. Purdue needs to play well. Good guard play from Utah State. And I think the Mountain West, they had a lot of teams in. 3 and 4 so far at the Mountain West. The Big Ten is 5 and 3. I like Purdue to win this game, but if I'm not mistaken, I've got them losing in the next round to Gonzaga. Gonzaga is another great story. A number 5 seed. One of the big talking points before this tournament was that Gonzaga was ripe to get beat by McNeese State. McNeese State was a lot of people's big Cinderella in the first round. I did, even though my champion is out, I did correctly pick 2 11s and a 12. James Madison, Duquesne, and Oregon to have upsets in the first round. So I'll hang my hat on that for now. I could still win this tournament, I would think, assuming nobody gets the champion right. So they're going to play Gonzaga next, and I've got Gonzaga in the Final Four, so I think they'll give them a match, and we'll see what happens. And Matt Painter pointed this out during an interview I saw over the weekend. Remember, Virginia went out as the number 1 seed to a 16 a few years back, and then the very next year came back and won the national championship. Matt Painter is hoping for similar results. March Madness, what's the deal with the referees getting removed mid-game? I did not see this. What happened? What game was this? That is not a story I have on my main. Hang on, let's take a quick look here. I don't see that. Oh, refs pulled at half due to background. That's interesting. I did not see this. This was halftime of Chattanooga NC State women's basketball on Saturday because of background conflict. Good catch. Tom Paris was removed from the first round game. This is an NCAA tournament game, by the way, not the women's NIT. There's a switch of game officials at halftime because it was learned after the game had started that umpire number 2, Tommy Paris, a female, I believe, it's spelled with an I, had a background that conflicted that, if known, would prevent her from working that assigned game. If known, well, what is it? She received a master's degree from Chattanooga, so that's why she was removed. How did the NCAA not know this stuff beforehand? This is the kind of thing that drives you crazy about the NCAA, and people think you can't police yourself. Oh, man. Good catch, though. Did not see that. By the way, speaking of referees, one thing that is killing March Madness in a way is the constant use of instant replay. We talked about instant replay a little bit Friday, and I feel like it was on the MLB show. In general, I hate instant replay because it makes the games longer. It's interminable, the ends of these games. Every single ball that goes out of bounds, I got to go look and see if it was touched by who, by last. Can't we just make a call? And I understand a couple of calls are reversed. I mean, they blew one last night in the Oakland game, North Carolina State, which North Carolina State ended up winning. Oakland played well again. But near the end of overtime, there was a ball that went out of bounds that Oakland threw away. It went off the kid's finger. They still didn't call it, and they gave the ball to NC State. Actually, I think that was at the end of regulation. So another reason I just hate instant replay, and it just gets used for too many things. I mean, instant basketball was put in similar to baseball, just for home runs, and baseball was put in, I believe, just for basically end of game situations. Did you beat the shot clock? Now it takes, we got to look at everything. Then we got to look at how much time and put 0.2 of a second back on the clock. And oh my God. Comments on analytics and how it can affect the player's life. Playing with God. This is Chris. Playing God with athletes. Players forced to platoon because of splits, pitchers being sent down after an inning of work. Again, this is all, it's a great point. Analytics, I don't know if the playing gods with athletes is your comment. I know you have it in quotes, so I'm guessing you are attributing it to somebody else. I'm curious. Or if it's yours, that's fine too, Chris. It's a great comment. But it's the way specifically baseball is played today. By numbers. You might as well be playing Stratomatic baseball. I just don't understand. Again, a kid coming out sent down after an inning, after an inning of work. We're talking. I don't know if you mean taken out of the game or sent to the minors, Chris, but taken out of games, you might throw 3 pitches and get 3 quick outs, and he's out of the game because his job is not to pitch the 8th inning; it's to pitch the 7th inning. We talk about this stuff a lot, and I love the quote, playing God with athletes. We dive into this topic a lot, so we can continue that conversation here. Go back to days. Ron Bloomberg never got a chance to hit off of lefties. Ralph Houck would not hit him against lefties. And Ron Bloomberg still says today, I interviewed him a couple of years ago on my show, and he was a great guy. But he insisted he could hit lefties and did hit lefties in the minor leagues. He didn't know how he got this moniker. And he kind of held a grudge about it. Not that he hates Ralph Houck or anything, but he holds it against him a bit. Hello, Rick Sager. Good to have you with us. Another one. I'm sure, Rick, your safety team might have been busy over the weekend with the snowfall up there in Montgomery County. You and your team do some great job. Do a great job up there. So kudos to you. Rick is in the town of Amsterdam, I believe, if I'm correct. Kenny, the difference between women and men is a product of men getting more exposure. No, that's not true. Men are at least 5 years more. Women are at least 5 years or more behind the men. 10 years ago, you wouldn't have seen the same thing. You would have seen the same thing. That's not true. Again, not in the context of what I was talking about. Is the women's game behind the men's game because of exposure as far as the growth of the game? Then, well, yes. And they're now starting to catch up. There's a lot of interest in this tournament. I paid attention to this tournament because of, and I have in the past, but, and again, quite frankly, I don't have the same interest that I have in the men, but it's not fair if you're basing this off the comment that I made that only one lesser seed, maybe that's the right word, lost out of 32 games where the men had upsets everywhere is not because the men are behind the women, or maybe, I guess maybe we can extrapolate it out that far because of recruitment or whatnot. And one of the reasons the women don't generate the excitement in the tournament, especially the first couple of rounds, is because people tune in, casual fans tune in to see David beat Goliath. That's just a fact. Afterwards, and the networks want that too in these first couple of rounds. Now, next week, they're going to want to see the Blue Bloods right themselves. But I'm not saying the women's game isn't behind the men because of exposure. Totally understand that comment in the general sense of the term. In the context of what I was talking about, I don't know that I think that's applicable, but I'm sure you'll refute that, Kenny. 15.6 inches of snow. Very accurate to the... Are you sure it wasn't 15.5 and then brought down by the rain? Just kidding, Rick. I like the accurate. Me, I'm like, it looks like a foot. Kenny's got 20 plus inches there. See, that's there. I'm surprised a Perth guy like Rick would be that accurate with his measurement. So kudos to you, Rick. I'm glad that you did that. Can you come down here and let me know how much I have? Because I'm a Kenny guy, 20 plus, 12 or so. Because once I get to a certain point, it's just like, if it's raining to me, it doesn't matter how long it's going to rain. I'm not going to go out until it stops raining. I think Ohtani is the real problem. It's funny, Kenny. I don't know. I don't want to jump to any conclusions. And I promised Danny Fuller, one of our newer and a loyal follower in his short time, who's a Dodger fan, that I won't jump to conclusions, but something smells funny here. Why do these stories keep changing? And if a guy stole $4.5 million from you, why are you joking it up in the freaking the dugout with him when the story's already been out there? Something's weird's going on. And I hope it's not. And again, I don't want to assume the worst. I hope it's not the worst because it's going to get ugly. And this is something that could hang over the Dodgers for a while. And again, this could be nothing more than, his interpreter did go. I don't know how he has access to $4.5 million. I mean, from a personal standpoint, Ohtani might keep better track of who's got access to his money. I mean, nobody can steal $4.5 million from me except my wife. The gentleman was great. The film really, really good as well. I didn't know it was based on a film. We'll check it out. We're just I'm 3 episodes. I think we're into it. It's really fun. Guys. It's on Netflix, and it's, again, I have a strange sense of humor. I have a strange sense of things that I like to watch. I like a lot of dark, and maybe in another life I was a drug dealer or something. I don't know, but I love shows like Narcos. I love shows about people that are just like, there's nobody in the show has any redeeming qualities, which isn't the case with a gentleman. I think Eddie has some redeeming qualities, but shows like Ozark and Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul and Peaky Blinders. There's a bunch of others that I'm drawn to because of the dark content, but there's humor, and you find humor where maybe there's not supposed to be humor, but I find it. And maybe that's a commentary on me. I don't know, but thank you for that, Alec. A lot of good stuff comes from these English production companies. Gosh, there was a mini series that I watched a while back with Michael. Got three names. He played Dexter. Dexter's another show that I loved. He played the husband of a woman who was murdered, and it was a short, maybe four episodes, maybe six, short miniseries, and it was really, really well done. Kenny responding to Chris, and they have taken the human aspect out of the game. They don't trust managers' experience and instincts, and they have made players a pawn in the game. That sounds like me talking, Kenny. A little smarter than me, I guess, but it is. You're right. The human aspect, again, part of my problem with instant replay. Analytics have taken. Managers aren't allowed to manage by their gut. We need somebody to come and break the mold. We need a Billy Martin type to come in here, maybe without, all the things that come with Billy Martin, or came with Billy Martin, I should say. But we need a guy like that to come and change the dynamic of what we're watching. Trust your gut. You have pitchers rolling along, pitching great. We saw it with Blake Snell, who I'm not a huge fan of, several years ago in the World Series, and Cash comes out and gets him after 5 1/3 because he'd thrown 90 pitches. And I've got my script here in front of me that says, I've got to do this. I've got to do this. If this is a situation, I have to do this. I got this guy for the 7th inning. I got this guy for the 8th inning. Doesn't matter what the guy in the 7th inning did. Strike out the side, doesn't matter. Out of the game. And yes, Kenny's exactly right. I rail on this all the time. And it's not good for the game. Scott Kobe, yesterday, again, this team tends to happen, right? 8-0 was the favorites were yesterday. And again, when you say favorites, Scott, I'm not sure if you mean betting lines or seeding lines, which can differ, right? I was specifically referring only to the seeding line so far. So is that the case? Do we have no? I'm trying. Maybe I can figure out your comment based on yesterday's results. Let me look at the scoreboard here. North Carolina, Arizona would have been higher seed. Washington State lower. So probably either way, I look at this. Actually, Gonzaga was favored in the game, but they were lower seed or higher seed, depending how you want to look at that. I guess it's lower is the correct term. Gonzaga's a team to watch. And NC State 11/14. So again, these things tend to write themselves. But again, it doesn't change the fact that people want to see those upsets. And you got them. You got them in day one and day two. Once we get to the weekend, things start to normalize a little bit more, although you still got a chance of a Yale team going to the Elite Eight. You still got a chance for James Madison. I'm sorry, the Sweet 16. You still got a chance for James Madison to get there. I think you're going to see some games today that are good. You guys can keep all that snow and enjoy it. You got nothing here in Boston can do without the snow. Listen, we don't want to keep it. I don't want it. It's just a fact of life, It's March. We think we're past it. We're never past it here. St. Patrick's Day and just past St. Patrick's Day. I mean, we're a week past it now, but through my lifetime, and at 64 years, I've seen a lot. My mother's birthday was on St. Patty's Day, so I remember these things. We've had some huge storms, a lot bigger than this storm this time of the month. So, but it sucks when you get to March and you've had some days in the high 60s, several of them, and then this happens. But it'll be gone. 3 days, this stuff will be gone. Scott's more and more convinced the Patriots are going with Harrison at 3. I'd like to, and taking Bo Nix. I'm not crazy about the Bo Nix. They do love Daniels more than they love Drake May. I know that. I do want them to take Harrison. As Scott mentions here, he and I have talked about this. I've talked about it on these shows a lot. I think the Patriots would be much smarter to take the sure thing at 3, which is Harrison. Find a quarterback later, because none of these quarterbacks are a sure thing. Take a look at Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Trey Lance. just to name a few, in one draft 3 years ago, whatever it was, 3 years, I guess. So I'm going with Harrison, and I hope the Patriots are too. I don't know, Scott. It depends on the source. I mean, every source says something different. Some, even one's got him trading down. I think, with the Vikings, but not a Justin Harrison type trading down thing, just swapping picks and then getting more picks later. That I don't want to do. You got a guy like Harrison, who I think will be a generational type player. Go get him. You got a bridge quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater. You can take a Bo Nix. I like Nix, but then there's sometimes I think he's got some Mac Jones qualities to him. We'll see. And again, I when I say that, I don't mean it necessarily derogatorily. The things didn't work out for Mac Jones, but I think in different circumstances they could have. But Michael Penix will be down there, and I'll tell you what, Scott, I might not even be against taking Harrison and maybe work on that offensive line with the second and third picks, because I can get a guy like Michael Pratt, who I don't know how much you watch, but I watch him at Tulane quite a bit, and I love his game. Now, he'd be a project, I would think. He wouldn't be he's certainly not going to be a first-year starter, but that's why we signed Jacoby Brissett. Hope I didn't say Teddy Bridgewater earlier, because I read an article about Teddy Bridgewater today. They seem to have him on the brain. But I might even look to take a quarterback later. And if I'm still bad next year, I'll take a quarterback next year. Team's got a lot of holes to fill. I think we can fill them best. And again, you got to have a quarterback to win. I'm not saying that. I don't think this team's going to win this year anyway. So get Harrison, get some offensive line help. Maybe even there's another great wide receiver available too. I don't know who falls. A lot of wide receivers in this draft, not as good as Marvin Harrison. But, and get that quarterback late. Fill a bunch of holes. Chris, I think with Ohtani, it only comes across as a bombardment of intangibles as we now have an access to all information, whether we want it or not. It's a great point. And the problem is, how accurate is that information, right? Because everybody's quick to get information out there. We're not always quick to check the accuracy. So again, one of these stories has got to be true, doesn't it? Or is it totally something different? I just don't understand how you could go from one extreme to such another big extreme. I gave him the money. I paid off his debt. I said, don't ever do this again. Ohtani's camp said this. And then the interpreter's camp comes out and says, no, he knew nothing about it. I stole the money. Well, I don't think he said he stole the money. That'd be a bad idea. Again, it's just, to me, it's the extremes. And there's probably something else. That's why I think there's something else going on here, Chris. I don't know what. Not going to rush to judgment. Promise Danny I wouldn't do that. I should open up my Facebook in case somebody can't get through here. Time out for 1 second while I do that. And make sure I'm on the right page. I am. Okay, good. Where are we here? Kenny said, all I'm saying is that men's higher seeds don't lose until the last. Again, I don't know that that's true. Penn, we just talked about on the Mac and Jack show. Penn in 1979, the year Bird and Magic Johnson. Penn made the Final Four. Now, I don't think they were actually seeding teams then, but there's no way Penn was going to be a higher seeded team than some of the teams they beat in that tournament. Villanova in 1985. That's 40 years ago, Kenny. Won the national championship as a much lower seed. So, again, remember, seeding didn't start until the last 40 years, in the 80s, probably in the 80s, maybe the late 70s. But you know who the higher seeds were. So I don't know if I agree that it's only been in the last 10 or 15 years. Maybe it's become more prevalent, which is an accurate comment, because the mid-majors have caught up for a lot of reasons because of one and dones, and the mid-majors have guys who are experienced. So, yeah, they've gotten better. You can remember the top seeds never lost, and there was even a women's tournament. There wasn't even a women's tournament. I think the women's tournament must go back a ways, doesn't it? Let's see if I can find that out quickly or not. History of NCAA women's tourney. What do we got? Just give it to me. What year did the NCAA women's tournament start? 1982. So, I mean, I get it. The NCAA started theirs in the 50s. So, but still, you've got 40 plus years there, Kenny. It's not like it just started either. Time has made all the schools and most have the ability to beat the bigger schools. I still think, and again, I don't know, and I'll be the first to admit, because I've said here, I don't follow women's sports as much as I do men. It's not, I'm really not trying to knock them. I just don't have the interest or the time or both. I'm interested in great stories. I'm interested in the great story of the South Carolina undefeated team. I'm interested in the great story of Caitlin Clark. So again, I don't think it's because I have a agenda against women's sports. I'm trying to be a realist here. That's all. So anyway, I get it. There are reasons, but that's still a pretty big discrepancy. It may be hard to watch, especially nowadays, but I suggest every boomer, Gen X, regardless of where we're from, look at the eco-environmental conditions that should watch. We're from regardless of where we're from, what we look like. What our current situation is life and how we got there, I guess, is basically what we're talking about. Should watch Mad Men, all 7 seasons. Listen, Mad Men, one of the best shows ever in the history of television. Just really well done. The ending, not so much, but and I won't spoil this for anybody who might want to go back and watch it, but it's a great, great show. Scott Kobe, Kenny wants you to keep your hurricanes and tropical storms. I'll take blizzards any day. I don't think Boston's getting hit with a lot of hurricanes, but Boston does get some severe weather, and they get some severe nor'easters as well. In the nor'easters, it's funny. We only hear about nor'easters, it seems like, in the wintertime. Nor'easters happen all year long. It can be rain, it can be snow, and Boston gets plenty of that. It's not like they don't get any. And we don't get it either. As I said, and I don't think, Kenny, maybe you're wrong, or maybe I'm wrong about you up there on the mountain. But here in Clifton Park Half Moon area, just short of Saratoga Springs, we got 12 inches of snow. That's more than all the snow we've gotten all winter up till now. So winters have become much more moderate. Because that happens to the planet, it goes through cyclical changes. And again, I'll leave that at that. Make my quick little jab. Did anyone catch the lacrosse game played in a foot of snow? I did not see that, Kenny. Where was that? I know there was some lacrosse championships canceled yesterday. I think high school championships. Maybe it was college. I don't think we're to the end of the college lacrosse season, though. I feel like that's later in the spring, May even. I could be wrong. But high school, I think, may have canceled some. I did hear some stories about that. I did not hear about anybody playing in a foot of snow. If you got some video, I'd love to see it. We'll play it. Scott thinks Brissett starts this year. I do too, unless the guy totally has a tremendous camp, similar to what Mac Jones did 3 years ago. A guy like Pratt or Nix or Penix is drafted, take a year to develop. I agree with all of that. I would not throw any of those guys right in there. That's the other thing. You take a guy in the top 3 or top 5, you're going to be much more. There's going to be much more pressure to start that guy right away. There's been talk about the Patriots and McCarthy. They have a good history with Michigan quarterbacks, as you may have heard. So they could trade down out of 3 and pick a few spots. McCarthy keeps coming up. And there was a time when people didn't think McCarthy would be in the first round. Then he was late in the first round. Now there's talk about McCarthy going in the top 7 or 8 picks. So you can't trade down too far. You could trade down to get McCarthy. But again, now I put all my eggs in one basket, the quarterback. If I draft one later, I get sure things at wide receiver. Hopefully I get myself a sure thing, maybe on the offensive line. It's hard to tell. This is a new Patriot regime. Again, with the Bill Belichick regime, we very may have traded out of the first round and got 20 picks later. I don't know. It's really it's an unknown. And again, we don't have a GM, which I'm really concerned about the Patriots not hiring a real GM. Everything I read, and Scott, maybe you know more than I do here or heard more than I have or something different than I have, but Jonathan Kraft is the de facto GM, which I'm not crazy about. Look how it works in Dallas. Don't draft a quarterback and take Dak Prescott off next offseason. Hey, listen, I defend Dak sometimes. I bust Dak sometimes. I think Dak is a really good quarterback. I think any team could do worse than Dak Prescott at their quarterback. I don't know. I think part of his failures are a byproduct of the dysfunction of the Dallas organization in general. They win a lot of games. They win a lot of regular season games, and they haven't found a way to win in the postseason. But that's a possibility. By the way, and again, I don't know, it's impossible to know what the Patriots cap situation will be next offseason. But you could draft a quarterback. You're only beholden to Jacoby Brissett for $8 million in a year, and you could go out and get Dak even if you draft a quarterback and draft a Michael Pratt later, and maybe Michael Pratt needs to sit for 4 years. I keep coming back to Michael Pratt. I'm a big Michael Pratt fan, if you haven't noticed. And the Patriots have had pretty good success finding quarterbacks that win Super Bowls late in the draft. Not to be specific, but somewhere around the sixth round, 199th pick. Scott, with the FBI involved, I believe the truth will come out, and Ohtani would be in serious trouble. Ohtani must have known about the whole thing, and that's not a good sign. No, it is not. I mean, again, I don't know, and I'm not going to say that. I think there's probably a very good chance he wasn't involved in the betting, but he had to know about it. And again, I guess if they were betting on European soccer, and whatever else he said he was betting on, then there probably won't be that serious repercussions for Ohtani. But I'm going to tell you, if there's any kind of smoke about baseball, even if Ohtani wasn't betting, but knew that his interpreter was at whatever point and didn't report it, it won't be pretty, as Scott said. Again, a lot of conjecture. We'll find out. You see one lower seed in the Final Four usually. Again, and there are instances where I'm trying to think. It's a while back now, probably 13, 14 years when George Mason, VCU both made the Final Four, I believe, as double-digit seeds. I could be wrong about that, but VCU had a couple of good years. They had a run from the first four to the Final Four. First team to do that, I believe. Now I'm trying to remember if it was with the Butler, when Butler first came on the national scene, if you will, when they almost beat Duke in the championship game. I'm trying to remember if that's the year VCU did it. But yes, you're right, Scott. There's usually a lower seed. I mean, we've only had, I think we've only had one time that three number ones have made it. I want to say one time. And that might have been the year Villanova won as a much lower seed. Baseball news. Wilson Alvarez turns 54 today. God, Wilson Alvarez was a great pitcher. Wilson Alvarez, I'm trying Teddy Higuera, if you remember, there were some really good pitchers. They had really some good years and just faded away. As a Texas Ranger prospect, he was traded with Scott Fletcher and Sammy Sosa to the White Sox for Harold Baines and Freddie Manrique. Some pretty big 90s names there for sure. Sammy Sosa, that's what people forget about Sammy. Sammy was given up on by the Rangers, given up on by the White Sox, and the Cubs nearly got there, but then, fate or steroids intervened, and Sammy became what Sammy became. A great story at the time. By the way, what happened to him? What happened to Sammy when he retired? He's turned into if you haven't seen him, he's like bleached his skin. He's almost as white as me, and it does not look natural. I mean, he looks like he's got makeup pancake on all the time. I don't think pigmentation changes like that naturally, does it? Anyway, another guy just seems to go off the rails when they retire. Sammy was fun to watch, though. I mean, you can tell you don't follow women's sports by your picks in the brackets. Quite frankly, I auto-picked, and I made some changes of my own. But maybe I should have left the auto picks. Yeah, you know why, Kenny? Because I know there should be some upsets, and I look for those upsets, and they don't happen. So what am I going to do? That's okay. Where do I stand there, by the way? Let's look at the women's bracket real quick. I will look at the men's bracket real quick. Just to give a quick update, since we're still talking that real quick. I'll get back to your comments in just a second. Anthony Price, don't know if you're with us yet this morning. You're winning right now at 360 points. He can still get a max of 1740. Keith is in second with 340, but my champion's out, so I can only max out at 1160. So a lot of these, which isn't as bad as it looks like looking at the rest of these guys. But, I mean, Rick and Anthony have the best potential maximum points. So I've got to root against the Huskies. I got all these teams I got to root against. Houston, I do not have in the Final Four. Connecticut, I don't have in the Final Four. North Carolina, I do have in the Final Four, but losing to Auburn, so I can't have them get to the final. And the problem is Augustine could come from way back. He picked Gonzaga to win it all. Poppy's picks, I'm not sure who that is. I think that might be you, Kenny. So that's where we stand there. Many comments. We'll get back to it. And just looking at the women's challenge, let's view the group there. I've got to believe Keith's in last place. Oh, Keith's in second to last place to a user. I'm not sure who it is. ESPN, blah, 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 who has 0, did not pick. So for all intents and purposes, I'm in last place with 150 points. And 8% winning kicks. Is that right? 8%. I don't know what that percentage risk. I do have 10-10 maximum points because I do have the winner left. I got South Did I not? I took Iowa to win it all. So if Iowa goes on a roll, I probably still can't win because Poppy's picks. Is that you? It's got to be you, Kenny. Kenny, our main proponent of women's sports, is in first place. Rick is in second. Neil Bush is in third. Anthony's down here with me, not quite as low as me with 280. I have 150. Let me look. Where was Neil in the? Neil probably took. I don't think Neil didn't take his South Carolina Gamecocks to lose. They lost. I did have Oregon over South Carolina in the first round. So I'm not upset with my bracket. I'm really upset. Let me just look at my bracket a little bit. Anyway, I got to get three. If I get three of the final four teams, because I can't get Auburn there, obviously, I still feel like I could have a chance to win, assuming one of your champions doesn't win. So just a little recap there since Kenny brought it up. You're right. I suck in the women's side. Do you have an upset or two for today? You know who I like today? Let's look at the matchups here real quick. I do have an upset for you today. Now, again, probably the betting fouls the seeds, but we'll see. I'm going to tell you to take Utah State plus the 11. I don't think they'll win, but I think there's a chance. Let's see. Watch out for Grand Canyon today over Alabama, although I like Alabama. I'm not going to pick them to win. I'm not taking Northwestern. You know, how about Yale? Yale over San Diego State today would hurt me, but I'll take it. I'm going to take James Madison over Duke. That's the big upset today. Again, covering the spread, I like a lot. Winning the game, I'm probably going to bet the money line on James Madison, most likely. Don't have it right in front of me, but where I left my phone. No idea where I left my phone. I could get it on DraftKings, but I don't know what the money line is. But there you go. I think the Yale betting line and maybe James Madison betting line, I might take both of those today. Good morning, Anthony. Just mentioned to you leading the way in the men's bracket pool. Good job. Good morning to you. Side note, looks like Jaden Daniels is 80% locked to Washington. We were talking about that a little while ago and whether that changes the Patriots' thoughts. They do like Daniels more than they like Drake May by all reports. I still think Drake May is the best quarterback, but that's just me. And we hope that it changes the Patriots' thoughts and they go hit Marvin Harrison with the third pick. So Washington's it's going to be interesting to see what they do. New coach. New approach. So we'll see what happens. Anthony says Drew Lock will be the starter for the Giants, which will, by the way, will doom the Giants to another 4 or 5 win season. Because Drew Lock is not a good starting NFL quarterback. You want him to be your backup, that's fine. Listen, there's a lot of rumors that Giants will go for a quarterback early. If J.J. McCarthy's there when they pick, you may see him go there. Even though they signed their quarterback to a long-term $40 million a year contract. And I don't know how they're going to move him. You saw the trade market for Justin Fields. I can't believe it's going to be that much stronger for Daniel Jones. And I like Daniel Jones. Actually, and Scott, you can tell me what you think here. It's probably going to be different. I'm still a Daniel Jones believer. And I still believe if he stays healthy, he is a winning NFL quarterback. You saw what he did 2 years ago. And he'd be a guy, if I can get him for a song, if the Giants were ever to get to the point where they're going to release him, I don't want to pay him $40 million. I'm not going to. But if they released him, like Russell Wilson's situation, at some point. That's not going to happen this year. I take a flyer on him with a 1-year contract. McCarthy might go to the Vikings. There's been a lot of talk about the Vikings wanting McCarthy if he's there, and they may have to move up to get him. And there has, you're right, Anthony, been talk. I talked about it this morning. Has been talk about the Patriots trading down, not all the way down with the Vikings. I got to get a little. I don't know what I'm going to get. It depends on what I'm getting besides swapping spots, right? I'm not getting Jefferson, obviously, for just swapping first-round picks. Give me a couple of second-rounders, or maybe I'll do that. I'm holding this team hostage, though. These teams that are desperate for a quarterback. And it would be very interesting, Anthony. You're not wrong about this conversation, but again, McCarthy went from borderline first round pick to second round pick to now mid-set first round to now possibly being the third pick in the draft. I like McCarthy's game. He doesn't have the numbers to back it up compared to the guys that everybody's talking about. But as far as translating into the professional game, I think McCarthy, and you saw it in the college football playoff, McCarthy has the tools. Good job so far this morning. Boston gets a hurricane every 6 years or so. That's not a lot. I mean, Florida gets 6 a year. So I get it. Hell, we got hurricanes every 20 years. We got 2 in 1 year, didn't we, in like 2012? Now we're inland, so all we got was flooding. That still counts. No, obviously, when you're out on the coast of the ocean, you're going to be more susceptible to hurricanes. But again, hurricanes do not travel north quite as often. There's impact, but do they hit as full-fledged hurricanes by that point? No. But I don't disagree with you, Kenny. I think I'd rather live here than live. I used to tell my brother this all the time. I'd rather live here than Boston, by the way, for several reasons. And I don't root for Boston teams, to be clear. I had this argument with a friend of mine one time, Sean. Sean knows who he is. That I root for Boston teams. How can I root for the Yankees and the Patriots? Well, New England doesn't play in Boston. They play in Foxborough, which is 20 miles from Boston. And he used to tell me, well, that's Boston. And for those of you who live locally, my response was always the same. Is Amsterdam Albany? No. So anyway, I'll cut on that. To Kenny, to your point, when my brother lived in California, he would call me up in the middle of January, and he'd be in his hot tub, and it'd be, we'd be getting to, because we had actual winters still then. It'd be freezing, or getting a foot of snow, 10 below zero, whatever. And he'd say, wouldn't you rather be here? And I'm like, well, no, I can shovel the snow away and I can turn the heat up, but I never have to worry about the ground shaking or my backyard being on fire. I think I said it to him after he moved to Temecula, because they've been having a lot of fires in the Temecula area at the time. So anyway, that was my answer to that. So yeah, I like living here, actually, because there's 10 days a year. There's no place better to live than upstate New York. 10 days a year. Yes, he is the GM. We're talking about Jonathan Kraft now. Elliot Wolf has a big say in the organization as well. Again, I guess Elliot Wolf. I need better football people in that front office. I don't understand. It doesn't make me happy. Good evening. I'm sorry. Good morning, Steve. The other day I was doing good morning in the afternoon, and I seriously think something happened to me this week. Good morning, Steve Warpello. Always great to have Steve with us. Steve, if you got the pizza recipe, we all want it, by the way. And you know what I'm talking about. I don't know if you're back working, Steve, or not. I know you were up there making the pizza that we're talking about at what's that place in Hageman? Cronies. I don't know if you went back to work or not. If you haven't, I hope you're doing okay. And if you have, or whether you have or you haven't, we want the recipe. Local guys know what I'm talking about. Also, Dak Kenny. We knew Kenny was going to have a comment about Dak. Dak sucks, and he might be better to go to the CFL. Come on, Kenny. Whatever we're talking about with Dak, he's better than. He's still no worse. Here I got to go defending Dak again. I know he hasn't won a Super Bowl, but neither have, I don't know, 80% of the quarterbacks playing in the league right now. He's better than Tua. I'm going to go through the league right now. He's not better than Josh Allen in my mind. He's better than Tua. He's better than Rodgers probably at this point. We have no idea where Rodgers is at, 41 years old or whatever he is, and coming off Achilles surgery, which I had, and I know and I'm not a world-class athlete. I get that, but it's not easy to recover from. Plus, he's nuts. He's better than Aaron Rodgers. He's better than whoever the Patriot quarterback will be. I'll tell you, he's better than Lamar Jackson. He's better than the massage molester up there in Cleveland. He's better than Russell Wilson. He's not better than Joe Burrow. He's better than C.J. Stroud. Still, C.J. Stroud may pass him, but he's not. CJ's not better. And he hasn't won a playoff game either, by the way. I know he only had one shot. He's better than Lawrence. He's better than the Colts quarterbacks. He's better than the Titans quarterbacks. He's not better than Mahomes. We know that. He's better than the Raiders quarterbacks. He's better than the Broncos quarterbacks. I'll even give you Herbert for now. I'll give you Herbert. He's better than Hurts. Sorry. He's better than the Giants situation. He's better than the Commanders quarterback. He's better than Goff. I'm going to say Love is better than him. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'll give you that one. Not the Vikings, not the Bears, not the Bucks, not the Saints, not the Falcons, not the Panthers, not the 49ers. Not the Rams, not the Seahawks, and not the Cardinals. There's 4 better quarterbacks than him in all of the NFL. There's 4 places he couldn't start. Maybe 5. 4 places he couldn't start. I mean, come on. Stop talking about the CFL. I can only take your comments seriously. And Kenny, I know that, there's other factors to weigh here. We all know you have this hatred of the Cowboys and the hatred of all things Cowboys and Dak. But I'm going to be objective. And I'm going to tell you, there's only 4 places he wouldn't start in the NFL. You can put up the places in the NFL you think he wouldn't start outside of the ones I just mentioned. Outside of the ones I just mentioned. Scotty, the Patriots could have 110 to 150 million in salary cap again next year. That's after having 100 plus this year, which would be the number 1 NFL team in terms of salary cap space, which I think they were this year as well. So that's 2 years in a row. This is why they don't need to gamble on a quarterback in the first 3 picks. So we guys to get. Would I bring Dak in here? If the situation was such when Dak became available, I would certainly consider it. Depending on what I had around him. If I was missing nothing but a quarterback, then yes. So you can't just in a vacuum. I can't say would I take him. It would depend on the rest of the situation. If I'm not ready to win, even with a maybe an overpaid quarterback, but a good quarterback, a really good quarterback, Because, by the way, you can get on Dak all you want, and he didn't play great against the Packers, but I didn't see him playing any defense in that game, or Micah Parsons for that matter. So, again, the situation would depend on what the situation was with the Patriots at that time. That's an interesting. But what money are they laundering? I mean, $450 million. How much has he made? How much has Ohtani made? You're probably getting paid good in Japan, but I mean, how much? I don't think he's made $450 million. And it didn't sound like this guy wiped Ohtani out. Where'd all that money come from besides? Maybe there's some money. Oh, again, I promise I wouldn't speculate beyond something doesn't smell right. And you're right, Alec. If Ohtani knows anything, then he should be banned. Well, no, you can't compare him to Pete Rose unless he was betting on baseball. Pete Rose isn't in the conversation unless he's doing the actual betting. If that's the case, then yes, he should be banned. I don't disagree. If he knew that his trainer was betting, and first of all, if he knows anything about him betting on European soccer, I'm not banning him. I mean, that's foolish. By the way, you can't do that. By the way, when Major League Baseball, like the NFL, like the NBA, do nothing but promote gambling. Now, players know they can't bet on baseball, but ball players for decades have gone to the track, have gone to bet on the golf course, have bet on basketball. They're in fantasy leagues with big money involved. Other sports fantasy leagues. So again, should he be banned? Not unless he was doing the betting, or the trainer was betting on baseball and Ohtani was giving him some information or something. You got to show me more than that. To be banned? No. If he knew something, I can see reprimanding him, fining him, maybe a short suspension. I don't know. But unless, you can't compare him to Pete Rose unless he was doing the actual betting. And anyway, that said, this is just an aside. Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame, as does Shoeless Joe Jackson, and tell their stories, warts and all. I've said that 100 times. We're getting there, guys. 3 number ones have made it. Have made it 5 times. Thank you. To 64 and only once before. Okay. I'm not sure the year I was referring to, whether it was before or after, to be honest with you. It would have been around 1985, I think, would be the year we're talking about. Good information. Thank you. Remember the cork bat? I do remember the cork bat with Sammy. Not the only guy, by the way. I remember it happened to Greg Nettles. Chris is going to love this since I found out about his real baseball affiliations. What happened to Greg Nettles? A bunch of Super Balls. You remember the old Super Balls when we were kids? He had them all stuffed in his bat. Lots of guys have been corked bats, but by the way, Sammy wasn't hitting, 60 home runs a year because he was corking his bat. He was corking something else. All 4 have made it once, maybe 2 times. I don't even know if that's the case, Kenny. That one I got to check. I'm going to take your word on the other one, but let me see. How many times have 4 number 1 seeds made the... You like me talking while I type? This is how I type. Seeding began in 1979. Only in 2001. Good point. Okay, Kenny. You got me again. 1 time. So you're right. Number one seeds win 63% of the tournaments. Doesn't tell me who these four were. I think they would, but they don't. Since Final Four seeding began, there have been 4 Final Fours that included no number one seeds. And I can't find out who these teams were. They didn't give it a year or whatever. So there's 1 year. Good job, Kenny. Chris likes to cover up my ugly face. Sammy Sosa recently resurfaced in his first return to Chicago. I saw something about this. In his interview, he looks a bit more back to normal, does he? And through his children, he went through a spiritual revolution and has humbled himself. Imagine putting Sammy and humble in the same sentence 25 years ago. Yeah, do send me the link. I saw a story about this a little bit, but I didn't dive too much into it at the time. But I'd love to check that out, Chris. So do send it. I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Have you done your fantasy baseball draft yet? And is there any room left in there? I haven't done. We didn't do one for. We didn't do one for TGI Sports Talk. I did several. One that Drew runs, my brother-in-law, who be on with me doing the MLB preview show on Tuesday. I didn't put a baseball draft together, Scott, and it's probably a little late now. We could probably still do it, but I think I tried 1 year and I did not have enough guys to do it. I don't want to do it with less than 8. I don't even like 8. If I can't get 12 guys, I don't like to do it. But Scott, if you think we can round up 12 guys, I'll be happy to throw one together. You give me some names and email addresses and I'll invite them and do it. And if any of you guys want to do it, that follow or playing or talking to me today, I'll do another one. I've done a couple, some free, some paid, and done 2 of them with Baseball, America's Favorite Pastime, with Greg Rawlings. He had a big one they did last night I wanted to get into, and I was just a little slow getting in. I like Yale today, as we were talking about earlier. Yale and James Madison, I think I'm going to put I'm going to bet the money line on both of them, I think, today. Plus 190, James Madison plus 235. Nice. I just like. You watched James Madison play the other day? Did you? If anybody watched that game, is there anybody who doesn't think that they can beat Duke today? That they have zero chance to beat Duke? I don't think so. That team moves the basketball. That team, they defend like every single play. They defend everything. They contest everything, I should say. I love the way this team is put together, coached, the way they hustle on the court. It's impossible not to root for this team. And I'm not a Duke hater. I think John Shire's done a really good job there in his first 2 years. Had some trials and tribulations last year, even this year for a certain time. But I think John Shire's done a really good job in a tough situation taking over for, maybe the greatest college basketball coach ever, one of them. He's on Mount Rushmore of coaches, isn't he? So I'm not a Duke hater. Marquette's my team, though, man. You saw Kolek. You see what difference this team makes. He goes, what? Kolek, 18, 11, and 6 rebounds yesterday. Or, I'm sorry, Friday. That's going to be a good game today. With Colorado. I like Marquette's path to the Final Four here. And I do have them in the final, which is my only chance. My only chance to get them there or to win this tournament is to get everybody in, all my teams in the Final Four and all your guys winners to go out. So they're going to get, if they beat Colorado, they're going to get NC State next. And probably Houston. Houston falls on their face against Texas A&M today, or James Madison next week. That's going to be an interesting game. James Madison can beat Duke today. I know a guy who took James Madison to get to the Final Four. Now, I wasn't that confident. I like this team a lot, but that's quite a gauntlet to run. They beat Wisconsin, which isn't totally surprising. Wisconsin was on a downward trend, but James Madison was all over the court. They beat Duke, the 4 seed. They'd have to beat Houston, the 1 seed. They'd have to beat probably Marquette, the 2 seed. I'm a believer, but it's waning a lot because of his injury history and his patience in the pocket. We're talking about Dak, I believe. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm never going to say Dak is a perfect quarterback or the best quarterback or even close to being the best quarterback. But again, he'd start on 28 teams. No, well, 26 teams, whatever. I can't math. Oh, and Daniel Jones, sorry. And Daniel Jones, the injury history applies to both the guys we're talking about, actually. It's funny because your comments could also pertain to Dak. Guys sometimes mature late too, right, Scott? And again, I don't want him on my quarterback. Cost me $40 million against the cap. So circumstances would have to be perfect for somebody like the Patriots end up with Daniel Jones. If I get him for nothing but the league minimum or something because the Giants ended up releasing him after next season, I would probably take a flyer on him. The girl Jordan Bowers from Oklahoma had three tens. Wow. In gymnastics at the Big 12. That's amazing. And again, I didn't know that because I'm not following women's sports that close, and I apologize for that. I'm just never going to know. Now, come Olympic time, sure. So every 4 years, it's very similar to soccer. Keith cares about women's gymnastics. I apologize for that. There's only so much time in the day, and my interest level just doesn't rise to make it a priority. And I apologize for that, but that's just me. But again, Kenny, you had all daughters, I believe, so I can see where that would probably be more top of mind for you. I'm not saying it's okay. I don't think to be fair to me, would defend me. To be fair to me, I don't think I've ever belittled women's sports, except to say the top in any sport we want to talk about, the men will always beat the women. That's all I didn't belittle women's sports. And if my argument's wrong, then I guess you shouldn't be against, trans women or women who used to be men competing against women, which I think is a joke. But I guess if you think the best women could beat the best men, you wouldn't have a problem with that. You probably do. I don't know where you stand there, Kenny, and I want to get a big political discussion, or social discussion. I have no problem. You do what you want, but you can't be born a guy and compete against women. I mean, again, common sense tells me that. Sorry, Steve, I went right by your comment. Do I think Clemson can beat Baylor tonight? Clemson played well in the first round. I think it's one of the few games I lost in that first day. Let me find them in the bracket here. Where are they? Who they got today? Clemson and Baylor. Yeah, I like New Mexico actually in that game against Clemson. The ACC might be better than what we thought. We'll see after Duke today if what I think might happen and James Madison doesn't surprise Duke. The ACC is going to be sitting pretty. Right now they're just pulled it. See, now I just pulled more stuff up, so I lose my here we go. The ACC 6-1. I believe this is up to date entering today's games. ACC may be undervalued. I've ripped them a lot. I thought Clemson would be out early. I thought Carolina. I do have Carolina in the Final Four. I only have Duke winning one more game, and today I'm telling you I think they may lose. So good job, by the way. So the other conferences, by the way, real quickly, ACC 6-1, Atlantic 10, 2-2, the American 0-2, very disappointing there as they're out of the tournament. Big 12 6-5, not tremendous. Big East 4-0, good showing there. Big 10 5-3, Mountain West 3-4. Again, I've said these teams, Seton Hall, St. John's, etc. If you don't make the top 68, and you should have done a little better body of work during the regular season, you only have yourselves to blame. But, and I like the Mountain West, but there's 6 teams, I think, there, and 3 from the Big East. And I love the Mountain West. But, again, there's where your argument will come in. The Pac-12, which will no longer exist after this year, 6-2 so far. I only have one team left, I think, though. The SEC, 4-5, have come back a little bit. They started 1-4, and the West Coast Conference 2-1. Gonzaga will carry the flag there. St. Mary's disappoints again. Had them in a survivor pool. So I'm out of the survivor pool, which is worth $5,000. The first 2 days of the tournament, I put 2 entries in. The first day I had Creighton and Kentucky. Kentucky goes out because, again, remember, you can only pick these teams one time. So you got to have teams left in the. You get to the Final Four and you got no picks, well, you're out. So you got to be strategic in who you pick. So then I had one team left on Friday, or one pick left on Friday, and I went with St. Mary's, and it just disappointed the hell out of me. Kenny, they usually lose strength because become tropical storms. That's what I was saying before. Here's where you get everything here in the stream of consciousness, right? We've talked sports, obviously. We've had very, I think, interesting debates. We'll probably have another one coming up here about a comment I just made, but women versus men's sports, which I don't think it needs to be verse, by the way. It can be both. And my interest will be where it is. I don't think I'm a bad person because I don't like women's sports necessarily. It's not that I don't like them. Again, I got to make time for what's important, and I don't have time. We talked weather. We talked, when hurricanes become tropical storms, and we also talked movies and television. So we talk about it all here. New England is not a Boston team. Again, Kenny, New England started playing in Boston. New England plays in Foxborough. Foxborough is 20 plus miles, 22 miles, I want to say, from Boston. And I'll say to you again, the reference. Is Albany Amsterdam? No, it's not. So if you had a team playing in Amsterdam, would you say they were an Albany team? No, you wouldn't. Not even a Capital District team. Dak is the top half of the quarterback. Top half, Scott. It's more than that. It's in the top 5. Again, can you show me 25 jobs? I'm sorry. Yeah. Are there not at least 25 teams he would go and start on? I might have counted his own team, but whatever. I just came up with like 4 or 5 situations where he would not be the starter. And he might be there. He wouldn't be with the Holmes. We know that. If he went to San Diego and competed against Herbert, I don't know that he wouldn't get the job. My gut says no. My gut says no with Allen. My gut says no with certainly with Mahomes. I don't know what the other one. Joe Burrow was the other one. That's the only 4 I'm that certain of. Kenny, lay off Dak. He's the 9th best player when we play the Cowboys. Guys are rough on Dak. And this is what happens. Because quarterbacks, it's funny. When they win, well, there's more to a team than a quarterback. But when they lose, it's always because of bad quarterback play. Always. I've been very hard on Kirk Cousins. saying he can't win big games. I went back and I looked at his playoff stats during those games. And again, numbers aren't everything. I get that, and I say it a lot. But his box score doesn't look that bad. I don't know that they lost these games because of Kirk Cousins. And I've seen Dak make stupid plays in the playoffs. I get it. Dak didn't have a great game or a good game even against the Packers this year. But Dak didn't play any defense. So it's a very funny line, Alec, but he's not the ninth best player. Who's the best player in the team? Michael Parsons? How did he play against the Packers? And by the way, then if Dak's the ninth best player, then Dak's not the reason that everybody wants to say the Cowboys can't get over the hump in the playoffs. Then Dak's not the reason if he's the ninth best player. That's like saying he's, Trent Dilfer when Baltimore won the Super Bowl. Steve's not working yet. Or not working. Sorry, not yet. And yes, I do have that thing you're talking about. Well, pass it on, buddy. It's funny. People have had here, we've talked pizza now too. I like your opinion on this, Steve. Stream of consciousness and all. There's a school of thought out there that Crystal Bar pizza was much better when you ate it at Crystal Bar than when you took it home. And maybe it's just pizza in general is better when you're out. I don't know. But I've heard more than one person, we've had this conversation, that the pizza was better after it wasn't delivered in that cardboard box. You got any thoughts on that? We're all over the place today. Then there's only four places. Then there's only four places that would win a playoff game. I'm not talking that. I mean, the places I mentioned, only one of those guys has won a Super Bowl. Herbert hasn't won a playoff game. Burrow's been to a Super Bowl. Josh Allen can't get to a Super Bowl. So again, if I base it off, winning playoff games, I could go even further. Josh Allen hasn't had great success in the playoffs. Justin Herbert, his team blew a 28-point lead, 27-point lead, whatever it was. That gets a bad rap. All quarterbacks get a bad rap when your team is expected to do better than they do in the playoffs. Sometimes it's warranted. I've been on Dak. I said when they lost to the San Francisco San Francisco 49ers a few years ago, and they were driving late in the game, and he wasted a bunch of time by not giving the ball to the official. Just knowing game situations, Dak has struggled with at times. But if you're going to tell me that he couldn't go play on 90%, 89%, whatever it is, of the teams in the NFL, then you just hate. And you're not paying attention to what reality is. Just like Kirk, you don't want Dak in the playoffs. Well, again, maybe until I see either one of them. Well, I've seen Kirk play with two teams in the playoffs, right? I believe he went 1 year with the team formerly known as the Redskins. And again, in fairness to Kurt, I went back and I looked at box scores. His numbers weren't that bad. Now, again, numbers don't tell the whole story. You're playing from behind, blah, blah, blah. I get it. So you can't judge it just based on that. But I expected his numbers to look a lot worse. There weren't a ton of turnovers except for one game. But it's where those turnovers are, right? So now if Kirk goes to the playoffs with Atlanta, and by the way, some of the rumors that I've heard about tampering with Atlanta and Kirk Cousins, please stop. Please stop. Again, just like other things we've talked about in sports, if you don't think everybody's doing it, first of all, there's a legal tampering time, if you will, from Monday to Wednesday. Because and this hasn't become a big story, but some people have brought it up. And and I've shot it down as, who cares? Everybody's talking to guys probably when they shouldn't be. And their main evidence was, as soon as you were eligible to sign, he signed. So did 50 other guys. So, I think it's debatable. And Alec, based on your last comment, you're not going to say yes. I'll give you the 49ers only because their quarterback made it to a Super Bowl. He hasn't won anything, by the way. And I can't say he's not a reason they didn't win. I'm not going to give you the Chargers because first of all, I gave you the Chargers and I gave you Green Bay. So I think there was 5 teams I said he wouldn't start on. Now, if he competed with these guys, he might win the job. Just based off of reputation, he should win every one of these jobs. Jordan Love has got 1 year under his belt. I love Jordan Love, and I think he's better than Dak right now. But he's got 1 good year under his belt, and it didn't start off all that great. And he won a playoff game he shouldn't have. And he didn't play great against 49ers. CJ Stroud has got 1 year under his belt. Dak would go there and compete. It's not going to happen. These things are all hypothetical because you're never going to have 2 good quarterbacks like this facing off against each other. And I gave you Herbert so you gave me 2 teams that I already said he wouldn't start for. So the Texans and the 49ers, even if that's the case, you got 4 teams. That's your 4 teams. That's your teams he can't play for. He'd start for 26 other teams then. Come on. Oh. But he should be playing the CFL. That's my problem. It's okay to rip Dak and say, he's probably never going to win a Super Bowl. Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl. Should Dan Marino have been playing in the CFL? John Elway took 80% of his career. Took him to win a Super Bowl. Then he won 2. Should he have been cut long before that because he couldn't win the big one? Just asking. Pretty sure those guys are in the Hall of Fame, which Dak will be in, by the way. You can rip them all you want. Dak is going to the Hall of Fame, like it or not. Golf. Where are we in the game today, and where do we need to? Where you need to be a chiseled athlete to compete? There was a debate the other day, and I wasn't part of the debate. I was just watching on Mac and Jack debate show about golfers and whether they're athletes. Golfers are definitely athletes. Again, you've got to compete, and 4 days in a row. You need to walk 5, 6, 7 miles. I guess it could be. Kenny, I think there's golf courses that are as long as 7 miles when you walk them all. Again, you can't go by, you can go by the yardage a little bit, I guess. I guess you could go by the yardage, but there's more walking you need to do than just tee to green. Amsterdam Muni, I believe, is like 5 miles, and that's not the longest golf course in the world. So, yeah, there's some athletic. And by the way, it takes some skill to be able to hit a ball. I understand it's sitting right there. But, yeah, golfers are athletes. It is a little disturbing for me how the game has turned, not just on being chiseled, like the Brandon DeChambeau, I'll say his name wrong, and a couple other guys whose names are escaping me. Tiger was the first guy probably to start getting in that type of shape, and he's not in any kind of shape like these guys. These guys aren't using steroids. I don't know who is. Remember during Deschambeau, how do you say his name? DeChambeau. During COVID, when they had a break for like 6 months, and he came back looking like the Incredible Hulk. I don't like that the game is based off of power, and it's not just their physiques, right? It's the equipment that they play with today too. I mean, again, you can't compare it almost in anything because of the changes in training, the changes in, especially in a sport like golf, the changes in equipment. The balls are different. The clubs are different. People say Nicholas couldn't compete today. If Nicholas had a training, damn it, did I do that again? Oh, bear with me, guys. Keep pushing that. I don't think I got it. Maybe I did. There we go. Sorry about that. My feet keep pulling a plug out on my screen. What was I saying, Chris? Where are you? Golf. People say Nicholas couldn't compete today. Well, if Nicholas had the equipment that these guys play with today and probably trained a little different. Remember, Nicholas started off as a big, fat guy like me, bigger than me. And he got in really good shape. Not in the type of shape these guys are in now because they're in a weight room, which I think hurts some of them. It's not all about how far you hit the ball, right? You drive for show and you putt for dough. So I do think that some guys could compete today. I have no doubt that Palmer and Nicholas, Trevino, Player, these guys could all compete today if they had the same equipment at the same age. Sounds like a hot coffee, warm fireplace, homemade chicken noodle soup chili we had last night. My wife made some great turkey chili with rice, and it was awesome. Over rice, it was awesome. But you better be doing that type of thing here in the Northeast for sure. Don't forget to have some slap your mama Cajun seasoning. What if Purdue? Anthony, good to have you with us. What if Purdue wins it all? I mean, what? Based on the are you talking about based on your do you have Purdue to win it all? If Purdue wins, I don't know if any of us have Purdue now that I think about it. Let me go see if I can find my does anybody have Purdue in our group? They do not. If Purdue wins it all, it's wide open. Then it's going to depend on how many people get teams to the Final Four. And I got three Final Fours left. Excuse me. Actually, I probably wouldn't have a chance because Purdue would have beat Gonzaga. Gonzaga and Purdue are in the same bracket. So it'd be wide open. Anybody could have won at that point, probably. I mean, you got to have a certain number of points by the time you get there, obviously. But if you're talking specifically about our brackets, then it will be chaos. And I don't think Purdue's going to win it all. I think Purdue's going to have a tough matchup with Gonzaga. Do we have proof Carlos actually played college basketball at 5'5"? I don't know that Carlos is 5'5". Did he say that? And Carlos isn't here to defend himself, so I'm not going to get into that too much. But do I have any proof other than what he said? No, I don't. That's okay. I mean, Scott, 2001 was Duke, Maryland, Michigan State, and Arizona. That's the four number ones, that sounds like. Good catch there, Scott Kobe. I love you guys. Always find the answers I don't have time to look for. Anthony never did fantasy baseball. I mean, there's different versions you can play, right? Head to head, which are daily. And now I'm in 3 dailies, and I wish I hadn't done that because it's a lot. Which will probably hinder me in one or all of them because it's hard. You got to stay on top of it every day. Scott said, yes, I did watch them, and I think James Madison can get to a regional final. There you go. I'm not alone in my thinking. James Madison I'll tell you, if you like watching basketball, make sure you tune into Duke and James Madison today because that game the other night was a lot of fun. I know Wisconsin was cold as ice from the beginning, but a lot of that was James Madison contesting like every single thing, passes, inbound plays, shots. And again, whether they play that way against Duke, we'll see, but I don't see why they wouldn't if that seems to be their style. And by the way, this team's won 31 games this year. Right? What are they, 31 and where are they? Where are you? Where are you? 32 and 3. I remember talking about them on the Sports Huddle when they were about 10 games in, and there was a lot of thought around the country that this team could get to their conference championship undefeated. It didn't happen. It's a really good team. And it's going to be a lot of fun, I think, this game today. Oh, that guy. What was his name? Crap. What was his name? I want to say Bruce. He's a freaking monster, man. I watched most of that game because I was rooting for Oakland, quite frankly, to kind of, make sure we busted up brackets good. But, DJ Burns, he's a junior. He's huge. Let's see I want to see his, he's 6'9", 275 pounds. He only averages 4.1 rebounds a game, which is interesting. I tell you what, though, the ball gets inside of him and this was a rough game. This was as physical a game as I've seen during this tournament and maybe any tournament game in a while. And that kid is a monster. Inside, you can't stop him. Can't stop him. And McConnell played well. The guard, I thought, played pretty well, especially down the stretch. This team's a team to watch. Although they're going to get, I don't know what they're going to do next round. We'll see. Who do they get next? Who do they get next? I watch Utah State today. I think they give it a tough time. Oh, they're going to get Marquette next, the NC State. So I think they're going to go out. But never apologize for the sports you choose to watch. I'm not really apologizing. I mean, I guess when I say I'm sorry, I'm apologizing. But, it's no different than the movies I choose to watch, the TV I choose to watch, the books I choose to read. They're what excite me, right? I mean, everybody should be that way. And again, I don't say to somebody, and would never say to somebody, why do you watch women's sports? It sucks. I would never say that. Women's sports is really good. I just have never found myself getting as much into it. Caitlin Clark has certainly made me more interested in women's basketball the last couple of years. I'll fully admit that. And a lot of times when it comes to sports, especially college sports, I like a good story. South Carolina is a great story this year. Caitlin Clark's a great story this year. I didn't even mention, by the way, last year's national championship, and Kim Mularkey is threatening to sue the Washington Post for a quote unquote hit piece that they're planning to run on her. She's heard about, and they were going out, according to her, going out and paying ex-players and coaches to talk crap about her. We'll see whether that's the case. Just looking at some other people out there watching I haven't heard from. Just feel free to chime in. Gregory Powell and Taylor Phillips is out there from the Michigan Sports Truth Group. SEC wants more teams so others can win a game or two. Sankey from this SEC, the commissioner, and he's trying this in football and basketball both. They want to expand the tournament, not just expand the tournament in basketball, but also eliminate some of these automatic qualifiers from these smaller conferences. So the Oaklands, the Duquesnes, the James Madisons. I mean, if he had his way, certainly Yale, Oakland, James Madison wouldn't even be in the tournament. Wouldn't even be in the tournament. They both won games. Two of them still have a chance to get to the Sweet 16. One played great basketball for 2 games and into overtime of the second game. This will wreck the NCAA tournament. Without Cinderellas, people think, no. Over time, if you played 2 out of 3, if you played 4 out of 7, well, that's bull crap. Because you don't. That's the beauty of this tournament. You get knocked out, you go home. Oh, I read some of the comments in The Athletic about, and people are just stupid that nobody wants to see Kentucky get knocked out by Oakland because it's not fair to Kentucky. What? It's not fair to Kentucky. Oh, my God. You're right, Kenny. And they're trying to do it in football and the college football. And remember. The NCAA basketball tournament is run by the NCAA. Sankey and the SEC trying to do the same thing, and the Big Ten are trying to do the same thing in football. That's why they want the 14 teams and not the 12. But they want X amount of guaranteed. I think it's 3. If I remember, it's like 3-3-2-2-2-1-1, where their conferences would each be guaranteed 3 automatic qualifiers in the 14-team allotment. That's bull crap. If those last 3 teams or third teams or even second teams aren't among the 14 best teams in the country, that shouldn't be the case. Cinderella should have a chance. Again, all the more reason. Get ready, Basement Bob. Call your lawyer. 16 teams in college football and all the conference winners to get in. There's not 30 conferences in like there are in basketball. There's 10. Take all the winners and 6 at-larges. You've got a real tournament. Until you do that, you're just running a money-making machine. That's all you give a crap about. I'm not wrong. Stephen, watch the first 10 minutes with Clemson. This is for Steve Orpel's question about Clemson being able to beat who are they playing today? Damn it. Where am I in the women's now? Where the hell am I? Who are they playing today? Oh, Baylor. Clemson, there have been times when they've been out to lunch during ACC play. That's actually very true. So that will be the telltale sign. So if Clemson's in this game early, Clemson's in it for the game, probably. Baylor averages 80 a game. Clemson can't score 80. Got to play good defense. Can't fall asleep at the beginning of the game, I think is what Scott's saying. And I don't disagree. We got about 13 minutes left here, guys. You guys have done a great job again today. Keith. Most men, I think that's a comma. That should be a comma. Don't watch women's sports unless they have kids. You are in a majority. I don't just, again, that's probably, that's why I said that to you, Kenny. I believe that's probably exactly why. I mean, we talk about a lot of reasons why women's sports aren't as big. I mean, if you have both, and you're going to still, if you have any girls that play sports, you're certainly going to be into women's. Maybe if they don't play sports, you're going to be more into it. And I'll be honest with you, to take it a step further out of the sports realm, I know that I was very hard on the whole Taylor Swift thing, and I reversed my course. Probably by the end of the season, at least when the playoffs started, because I'd heard several stories of young daughters who were watching football with their dads who never would have done it and had no connection with their father, no real thing to share with their dad. And I thought it was kind of I read a piece about this in several real life cases where people had come forward and said, this has changed my relationship with my daughter. And I had to say, what's wrong with that? That's a good thing. So Kenny, I did reverse my course on Taylor Swift, and I think I've said it here before, but I just want to reiterate that. I was very difficult, like most people, most NFL fans. I spit out a lot of vitriol against this whole Taylor Swift. Get her off the screen. She was there more than you think she was there, but she probably wasn't there as much as I think she was there. And I have come to the conclusion that there is a positive that comes out of this Taylor Swift focus from the NFL. And not about money, not about anything else. You know, you talked about the money they generated, and I get all that. It's the human interest stories that really turn the tide for me. The dads who talked about the change in their relationship with their daughter because now they had something in common. Not Taylor Swift, but the NFL, and the girls were interested because of Taylor Swift. So anyway, no joke, CA in a battle, which most of you doesn't realize, it's another of several forms of birth control measures. I lost you. What the hell are we talking about? No joke, in a battle of the most humanity, in the battle, which most of humanity doesn't realize, it's another of several forms of birth control measures. Are we talking about transgender stuff? I don't know what we're talking about here, CA. I don't mean to laugh. I'm sorry. I get lost sometimes. Watching sports from all over the sun, that would be very hot, by the way. I hope you mean under the sun. Because I don't think they're playing any sports on the sun if they are. Home field advantage is very important on the sun. Just kidding. I'm getting a little goofy, Chris. Anyway, let me read your comment before I start laughing at you. I'm sorry. I'm laughing with you, I promise. Watching sports from all over the sun really gives you a leg up when the Olympics roll around. I agree. I just can't. Again, I try to pay attention to big stories, right? But I don't have time, number one, to just sit and watch every sport that's out there. I wish I did. There's Bill Pulver. Hello, Billy Pulver. How are you? Bill, you got a perfect bracket, I heard. I don't think it was perfect, but. Jets and Giants playing New Jersey. They are a New York team. Agree, Patriots or Boston. Yeah, agree all you want. It's not true. Geographically, and I will tell you right now, my argument still holds water because I have said forever, New York has one football team. That's in Buffalo. To me, they're the New Jersey Giants. I don't know what to tell you. By the way, it's not 20 miles to the stadium either. It's shorter. But let me ask you this quick question again. Billy, you know the reference very well as well. Is Amsterdam Albany? No, it's not. It's virtually the same distance from Boston to Foxborough. Are you a bigger fan of Dak than Jerry Jones? Yeah. I think Jerry's a problem there. One of the reasons I'm worried about the Patriots following the same model, it seems, as Jerry Jones and the Cowboys have had, where they don't have football people running the operation per se. They had bring in people with some football knowledge, let's say, like Scott talked about with Wolf, but Jonathan Kraft should not be the GM of an NFL football team. Any more than Jerry Jones should be the GM of his team. Hire a GM. You be the money guy. There's something wrong in Dallas, and I don't think it's Dak. I mean, he may be part of it, and maybe he needs a different place. So, again, until he goes and loses somewhere else, I can't say he was better. Well, I don't know how that makes your argument any better. I said a lot of great quarterbacks didn't win the big one. Fran Tarkenton, yeah, he was better than Dak, and he also has played, 10 more years so far than Dak, I would say, roughly. But you're twisting the question. The question was, are Tarkenton, Marino bad quarterbacks? Was Elway a bad quarterback for the first 12 years of his career when he couldn't win the big one? The answer is no, by the way. For centuries, medical and science-based measures for well less than 1% of humanity population expanded for the rest of the power wealth. CA, you're diving a little too deep for me right now. It's 5 minutes left in the show. Crystal Bar had the best Southern Comfort Manhattans. There you go. Yes, I do. When the box is closed and the steam from the hot pizza changes the texture. Excellent. Coming from the pizza guru himself, Steve Orpello. So I'm guessing that applies to any pizza. And I want the recipe for Crystal Bar pizza. Amsterdam has had better pizza than any big city. Hold on. Oh, you're not calling them a big city, right? I visited, including Atlanta, Buffalo, and any Florida city. I agree. New York City, by the way, has some great pizza. Chicago has some great pizza. I'm one who doesn't need either New York or Chicago style. I like both. I like thick. I like thin. I like all kinds of pizzas. One of my favorite things is watching Dave Portnoy do his pizza reviews on Barstool. So, but Amsterdam has had, I don't know about today, but they still got some good pizza places. Battisti's, I just found out the girl cuts my hair. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. That's not nice. A girl cuts my hair. Her husband is part owner of Battisti's, who makes some great pizza. Nothing against Crystal Bar, but again, I like a lot of different pizzas. A lot of people, like my wife, we've been looking for, because she was at one place she always ordered from for 30 years. And then when we moved, we can't find a pizza that makes her happy. I like them all. We think we found one now. I know Battisti's. There's talk about Battisti's moving down to this New York. I love New York pizza that's right down the street from me. Well, not down the street. It's down where I get my hair cut. I would love that. There's Robert Butler from Sports Scope. Check out Robert every night. I think 8 o'clock on 8 o'clock every night Eastern on Sports Scopes. Dak, a good quarterback getting paid a great quarterback salary. Well, that's the owner's fault, man. You want to overpay quarterbacks. I always say this: you can't blame. I can't blame the players when somebody's willing to give me the money. But that's a fair comment, Robert. Golfers never walk a straight line. Agreed. If I did, I'd be a lot better. If you don't believe me, watch me play. I just use the same line about myself. The Golden Knight was and still is the best conditioned golfer ever. I believe we're talking about Mr. Nicklaus. Jack Nicklaus would eat these guys alive today if he played with the same equipment. That's the comment I'll make. I admit I've got a soft spot for when your backdrop glitches. When? Where? I thought my oh, now I got a little spot up there. Probably where I got the camera turned. That's probably my bad. Oh, yeah, see. There we go. I got a soft spot for when your backdrop glitches. I thought I stopped it. I was going to ask early on because I thought I made some changes to the lighting, and I got one more change I might make. But I think we're a lot better situated than we've been recently. And again, it might depend on the feed you're getting too. Anthony Price, fantasy baseball is when you're sleeping and you're the best pitcher ever. That's a good line. Burns, yeah. That was a great player for NC State last night. You should talk about the Bills' recent dominance of the AFC East. Greg, good to have you with us. Oh, maybe I'll go a couple minutes long here. I'm not going to kick Roku off. I'm going to let them kick me off because every time I do it, I seem to have a problem with my audio. But since we had a few new people come in, usually we go off at 10:30, guys. So get in at 8:30. I know if you're on the West Coast or someplace it's harder. But Greg, great to have you comment. Great to have you with us. Hope you're liking and following TGI Sports Talk. We do talk about, again, and we've talked a lot about the Bills, and their recent dominance doesn't I think you think I may have an anti-Bill sentiment because of my top. But while their dominance has been good, it doesn't reach Patriot-esque levels yet. And they haven't won a Super Bowl. I mean, yeah, again, as I've said here, just because you're not winning the big game does not mean you don't have a great team. Sometimes you just have to learn to win. I think the Bills have been a very good team. And I've spent a lot of time on my shows defending the Bills in recent years, especially when my Patriots have been not as newsworthy, if you will. So anyway, we welcome, and we will talk about anything that, especially on this show, we talk about anything you want to talk about. If you haven't noticed, we've talked pizza, weather, movies, and other stuff that I can't remember because we've been on here 2 hours. I can barely remember 10 minutes ago. Talking ball. That's a new stop in here for us, commenting. Glad to have you here. More of a soccer fan than anything else, especially as a guy from IU territory. Just wanted to say, great show, man. Keep it up. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Talking ball. If you want to put a little post up, and I'll try to stay on until you put it up to promote your stuff. I've got to believe you've got a podcast or something going on. We'd love to check it out. I got nothing against soccer, and I'm a big fan every 4 years. Again, another time, I didn't grow up with it, so it's very hard. I'm a creature of habit, and I'm stubborn. But we appreciate you coming on. I appreciate the kind words, and hopefully you'll like and follow the show. And I'll be glad to put a little blurb up in the comments. And if it's after I sign off, then I'll make sure that I post it to the page. So I appreciate that. Chris, vented boxes. Sorry. Invented boxes are also very important, by the way. Oh, God. I don't know if my wife slipped something in my coffee this morning or what. Vented boxes. Vented boxes should be a prerequisite in the pizza industry. This truly is the stream of consciousness. Draft, baseball, pizza, golf, weather. You missed the movies and TV shows. We didn't get to hockey today. We'll get to some hockey. I got to get Jim Behringer in. There's a couple tragic stories in hockey that I wanted to talk about a little bit, but we didn't get into it. So we'll get to some more hockey talk. I know my crowd, and again, we get Jim in, and Jim brings them in to the conversation very well and brings up or answers their questions too. And quite frankly, I am an NHL fan, but I'm more of a Ranger fan than a general NHL fan. It's very hard for me to carry a hockey conversation on my own. I can carry it from 10,000 feet, but I need Jim when we're going to get into some real heavy stuff. So this is why we named it the Stream of Consciousness, buddy, because we are all over the place. Scott, Greg Sankey, how is the SEC doing this year? 4-5. They've come back a little bit, Scott, but you're right. We need more SEC teams in like Mississippi State. I mean, come on. And we're gonna bring in more of those teams and kick out the Oaklands and the James Madisons of the world. Stupid. Well, you remember when IU beat UK 15 years ago now? I still make fun of my UK fans over that. Probably time's a fleeting thing for me. And that's the thing about, your fandoms. You can hold those losses or wins, however you want to phrase it, over their heads forever. I've got Giant fans who, to this day, talk about 2 Sundays that I don't remember even a little bit. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. Who's Taylor Swift? Dusty May is the new men's coach. Yeah, we talked about that at the top of the show. Dusty May was mentioned for pretty much every, and we'll get into more of that Wednesday in the College Sports Huddle. Dusty May was mentioned for pretty much every major opening: Ohio State, Michigan, Louisville, among others. He's a good basketball coach. His roots are in Florida. Basically, he did coach at Eastern Michigan early in his career as an assistant. We'll see how he does. Dusty's done very good with probably limited focus on the basketball program. He's done a great job. Final Four last year, had a great year again this year, changing conferences. It's a different world just when you go to the Big Ten. And Michigan has probably unreal expectations for their basketball team. Big Ten's going to get tough. But Dusty May is probably a man for the job. He's going to have a lot more resources at his fingertips, and we wish him well. He's a good young coach, and hope to see him do well. I'm starting to think that Kenny that that maybe that maybe CA is visiting the Cabbage Patch as you are in the morning. I don't know. I joke, CA. Good morning, Danny Fuller. I've mentioned your name several times today, and I'm 5 minutes over time here, so I'm not going to be on too much longer. But you were referenced here a few times today. Welcome this morning. Danny's out on the West Coast, so I know 8:30 a.m. is a little tough for him, but here we are. There's something wrong in Dallas, correct. It's called Texas. It's very funny. You get on the college football show, and Dan, I'm sorry, John DeLon will tell me that the only thing wrong with Texas, he loves Texas, the only thing wrong with Texas is being ruined by the Californians that are moving there. Go Pac-12. Danny, I mentioned earlier, Pac-12 doing a great job. I think there's only one team left, though, right? But up until now, in the men's, and I knew they're doing better in the women's, but I looked at this earlier. Now I can't get my mouse to go there. The Pac-12 is 6-2 so far in the tournament. Maybe they got 3 teams left. Who they got left? No, Washington State went out. Oregon went out. Oh, they got Colorado left today. I think Marquette's going to beat Colorado today. Anyway, good job by the Pac-12 in their last year, and it's very sad. We'll get that into a different story. Too late. I was. What? Oh, my God. Everybody's talking like Yoda to me today. Too late, Keith Engle. I was. LOL. Already. Oh, my God. I received my alert from Chris F. Grave. Gotta love Chris. Listen, my followers, my regular followers especially, they know how much I love them and how much especially this show, how much they carry this show and the fun that we have and busting each other's chops. And we get into some serious disagreements sometimes during this show, but we're still all friends afterwards, which is what's really important, right? I'll disagree with every one of you, and I respect every one of your opinions. I'm just a very opinionated guy myself, and it's very hard to talk me off my beliefs. It's happened, though. I just gave Kenny an example of where it's happened. But I do love you guys, Chris and Danny, who have come in and added some more juice to the show. So I enjoy you guys coming in from two hugely different parts of the globe, by the way. Danny out in L.A. and Chris up in Toronto. Jim Kelly never won a big one. Another good name to bring up. Bad quarterback, though, right? Couldn't play. He sucked. Just kidding. He's not. And there's some Buffalo talk for you. Who brought that up earlier? Who was that? Oh, Gregory Gregory Pal. We do talk Buffalo on this show. I will stick up for great quarterbacks who never won a big one. I get it. Not everybody can win. We just mentioned 5 guys. So Dak is not a bad quarterback. Dak does not. Again, this is all about Dak not belonging in the CFL. I mean, that's nuts. I'm trying not to leave out any of your comments here, but we're going a little late. But I'm going to try to get it. Your bracket's at 75%. My bracket's probably about 75%, but it's also lacking a winner with all birds going out. So I need everybody else's winner to go out, and I need 3 teams in the Final Four, and then maybe I got a shot. But that's pretty good for now. And if your winner's still alive, you're still good. The Golden Bear, that's correct. Jack Nicholson. He'd eat these guys alive today. Oh, you're talking about Gary Player. Gary Player, oh, you were talking about in shape. Gary Player, you see him now? Sorry about that, Kenny. I misjudged what you were saying there. And I mentioned Gary Player earlier. Gary Player would compete very well today, too, because he might be able to play today. I'm just kidding. He's 80. How old is he? 86? He's in better shape than anybody on this show, I think. Consciousness, the state of being awake and aware of one's surroundings. Well, Kenny's already disqualified. My consciousness is like ADD driven. I love you, CA. Boy, I love losing Super Bowls. I don't know. What? I don't know. A betting tip for everybody from Scott, who is the betting guru of Let's Talk Sports. Check out Scott's. Let people know when your betting shows are on too, Scott. Betting tip for everybody. Colorado is 0-9 against the spread, coming off a game in which they scored 95 points or more with less than 7 days of rest. That's a lot of information, Scott. That's a great stat. I may be betting Marquette. I'm probably betting Marquette. Against the money line, they're probably a lot, though, today. So that might have to be a spread bet. So we'll see. Right. Last night you claimed you played Division I soccer, so I'm calling bullshit on you played D soccer. D6 Division 6 soccer for FFCC. HVC didn't want you. I played baseball at HVCC. A lot of great players there, man. I thought I was a good ball player. There's a lot of great players there. Oh, who we got here? That's since 2016, that Colorado stat, by the way. Who's going to the Belmont this year? I will not be. I live now only, 10 miles from the track. I will not be going anywhere near Saratoga the weekend of the Belmont. I think they got a 4-day meet. The Belmont will be in, if you don't know that and you're a horse racing fan, the Belmont, which is usually run in New York City at Belmont Racetrack, will be run at Saratoga Racetrack the next two Junes, third leg of the Triple Crown. If there's, Billy, this place is going to be a zoo if there's a horse going for the Triple Crown next year. And the tickets, I believe, I don't know that if you haven't bought a ticket, I don't think you're going anyway, because I think the 4 days are sold out. Not positive, but I think they are. CA, we enjoyed it as well as always. In between the final days of the Bassmaster Classic and the PDC Women's Series and Seniors Tour of Dart. So we get fishing and dart updates from CA, plus a lot of philosophy, which we do. And the state of Texas by California on next Sunday's show. The state of Texas by California next Sunday's show. It will be harder on your crop in Philly. I got to believe Kenny can probably do what he needs to do anywhere. Marquette, minus 192. I might bet the line. I don't know. We'll see. Oh, that game's at noon, too. I play Division 12 cricket in Massachusetts. Oh, God. I believe if I was younger, I could play Division 1 cornhole, which now is, by the way, becoming an NCAA sport because I forget the college now out there in Iowa has given out scholarships for their cornhole team. Belmont made this is a different Belmont, Kenny. Well, Belmont actually has made the NCAA tournament more than once with some pretty good teams over the years. Thank you, Kenny. Thank you for your input, as always. Save for next week are the dartsmen. Are dartsmen and women athletes? Yes, women are athletes. I didn't say they weren't. I want to be clear before we go away. Again, my only comment about women athletics has been just what started this whole debate between Kenny and myself, and maybe Paula. I don't know. Sorry, Paula. The best women can't beat the best men. That's all. We'll continue this at a later date. We're going to wrap it up. What the hell is minus 192? You got to bet $192 to win 100 if you bet just Marquette to win the game outright with no points. So that's what minus 192 is. Wiffle ball. Wiffle ball, they got a huge wiffle ball league here in Clifton Park, New York, with this beautiful stadium. It's kind of built like Fenway Park a little bit. It's awesome. And I'm hooked on wiffle ball. There's a couple of great tournaments, indoors and outdoors. There's one, Chris Rose. If you know Chris Rose, the sports announcer from Fox, he does some of the play-by-play and stuff. I'm hooked on these little snippets. I can't find entire games, but there's a couple of different leagues around that do this. It's really fun to watch. And I remember my days playing wiffle ball, and those days are long gone. Scott grew up in Belmont, Massachusetts. We got a lot of references to Belmont going here. That was grammar on me. Are people who throw darts athletes? I knew what you meant. I'm not going to touch that one until CA's off the air. I got to think about that one. That means you lost money. No. You didn't lose money. If I want to win 100, I have to lay 192. So if I win 100. If you bet, let's just say I put down $192, I get $292 back. That's the point. So I did make $100. Played wiffle ball. I remember playing in the tennis courts, and we'd play in a gym. That was my favorite day with Roger Gifford in gym class. Either dodgeball, which again, it's totally cruel and unusual punishment for kids apparently, and wiffle ball were my favorite 2 days of gym class. I think we need to start a TGI water polo team. Not a bad idea. I'm not sure how many of these guys would still float, Scott. I know I don't. It takes me a lot to float these days, and I'm not sure Kenny could probably still float. The rest of us might have a problem. Danny, okay, what, buddy? Oh, I'm done here today, guys. It's been a fun show, awesome show. Danny, I'm sorry you made it so late. We had a lot of conversation today, but a lot of what we talked about, what happened? Where'd my music go? There we go. We had a lot of conversation today. Most of it will continue over the next few weeks. College basketball, Ohtani, and lots of other stuff. So, guys, I welcome you back next week. I welcome you in Wednesday to the college sports huddle. Kenny floats most days. And don't forget, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, we'll have our Major League Baseball preview. Nothing but baseball. Pickleball. Yeah. Oh, God. I love it. Guys, thanks. Keith Engle for TGI Sports Talk Sunday, Stream of Consciousness. Have a great day. Bye-bye.